Hello and welcome back to the channel. Today we have a 235mm high chef from Benjamin Kamon and Tobias Hangler of Austria. Tobias forged the steel and it consists of 100 layers of random nickel Damascus over Apex Ultra. It's Benjamin's high chef profile with a denty texture and a full Walkschliff grind. Essentially an oval like this, convexed from spine to edge. The handle is a texturized ironwood Rokkaku Hanmaru with brushed copper end caps, and it also comes with one of Benjamin's sayers. Earlier this year we were up in Austria and met the two guys. There was a plan to do an interview, but rather than being a third wheel, we decided to let those two guys interview each other. And so without further ado, here is that interview now. Enjoy.
Hey Ben, you stopped by my workshop today with a beautiful knife.
Right.
And there's quite an interesting history about this. It's a collaboration piece between Benjamin Kamon and me, Tobias Hangler. And this knife is going to be available on Modern Cooking. And we wanted to highlight a little bit the process that this knife went through and how it came to existence.
Exactly.
So I think everything started as a phone call about 2 years ago, and where we were like, let's do something together.
Exactly, and as collaborations usually are, it took us some time to finally get to it.
Yes, then I sent you some steel and you sent it back and you were like, this is not good enough. No,
of course.
It was actually, it wasn't quite the material that you were excited to work for. And then we settled on this version. So this is an Apex Ultra core with a nickel diffusion line that inhibits the carbon diffusion. And then we have a high layer Damascus cladding on the outside. And exactly. I think that's where both of us were really happy.
Yes, I mean, I remember I specifically requested the high layer count of the Damascus.
Yes. Because
I like the Damascus to look kind of wrought irony, and to have that fine textures opposed to a rather coarse texture. And I think it goes well with the denty texture I put into the knife.
Yeah,
for the layers, once it's ground fully up to the spine, for the layers to cut through the layers and show their quality
true
and
beauty.
count. Yeah, and the true
so
beauty.
The pattern is a little bit more subtle. You have to get closer to see it. At first, maybe on 2 meters distance, you can't really tell.
Yes.
You already touched on the grind. That was kind of something that's really interesting. If you look at the spine of the knife here, in the front section, basically the front half of the blade, it looks exceptionally thin.
Yes.
How come?
Yeah, so that's what I call a Walkschliff. It's a German word, but there is no proper English term. Essentially what it means is that the blade is ground up to the spine, and the thickest cross section of the blade in a in a upright way.
Section, yep.
Yeah, is somewhere in the middle of the blade, and not at the spine. So it's a fully convex ground, so to say.
Yeah.
That helps to show the pattern, but also the convex grind helps with food release and performance overall. Then you really
shifts the balance.
Exactly, you can dial in the thickness of the blade overall. You get a nice ricasso on the tang near the handle.
Yeah.
When you do that. So yeah, it worked out for that steel.
So there's always, on your blades, there's always a little heat colors on the tang. I know you do this very intentional, but I don't think everybody knows about that. Would you mind explaining why you did that?
Yeah, that's one of the last steps when finishing a blade, because I'm trying to make the tang as tough as possible. So I'm not quenching it in the first place, but after that I'm high tempering it, and the colors are just the tempering colors from the blowtorch that I use for tempering the tang. And with some knives it's just a cool design element and I just leave it on.
Yeah.
With others which are more clean or subtle, or where it doesn't fit as good, yeah, I grind them off afterwards. But essentially the tang is always tempered to a rather high temper, just for it to be as tough as possible and as brittle as little.
Yeah. Yeah, you don't need a hardness on the tang. That's
yeah,
fine. It needs to be springy. That's
exactly
good choice. It's approved. I can work with that.
Metallurgist. Perfect.
Yeah, I think what Ben and me really brings together is the focus on performance. So we both like thin edges, good, nice grinds, and then combining that and spicing it up with a little bit of bling and texture here and there. And yeah, speaking of texture, I mean, if you look closely at the handle, this looks a lot like desert ironwood. It's going to be
exactly.
a nice pearl. Yeah.
Yeah.
What did you do to bring out the texture in that way?
So the desert ironwood, I took some inspiration from pipe makers because they're oftentimes texturizing their wood and they are using briar or whatever kinds of woods.
Yeah.
But when
rusticating.
Rusticating and all kinds of textures. But what essentially happens here is through bead blasting, the softer spots of the wood get worn out and the harder spots of the wood stay prone. And then you get some valleys and peaks. And after polishing, you really can bring out the texture of the wood not only in a visual color difference way, but really in an actual three-dimensional way.
Which helps you get a nice grip on the handle and not feel slippery. Yeah. I like it. I love it. I love bead blasted, sandblasted, textured, brushed. Awesome.
Thanks.
Awesome. And so you went with an heirloom fit and copper spaces in the front and the back. I would say very nice choice in colors. Do you want to say anything more to that?
Yeah, so overall, I mean, the profile of the knife, of the blade itself is a high chef. Yep. So it's a very classical profile. And the heirloom fit handle is rather visually classic as well. Yeah. So I thought it would fit the blade. And then also you have to consider weight. So this is the lightest weight handle construction I can offer. Yeah. Every other handle construction of mine has thicker end caps. Yep. And more metal, and desert ironwood is dense already
pretty heavy, and then you have the Walkschliff in the front, so
yeah, exactly.
You need to balance out.
Yeah, you need to balance it out, and that just was overall a very conclusive choice.
Conclusive build, yeah.
Yeah.
It's awesome to hear how much thought process that goes into a blade like this. It looks like a knife, you know, edge in the front, handle in the back, but there's so many nuances.
Once it's finished, you could think it's super easy and no one thought about it, but I think there always goes a lot of thought into them. So
absolutely. You mentioned the classic profile. Although you would say that's a classic profile, it's not a classic Kamon profile. I think it's more one of your recent profiles, isn't it? Why did you think that needs to exist? And why didn't it exist earlier?
Yeah,
with you?
The profile itself, I always made my profiles rather flat. Yep. So my Giotto, or no matter what it is, Nakiri or whatever, most of the time they were rather flat. That was just personal preference. But I got, by the customers, I got asked a lot for more belly in the profile. Yep. And I thought, I mean, I had a chef profile before, but there the blade height wasn't really there. So with the high chef, you have the belly, and then you have a lot of surface area on the blade itself as well. So you can really, you have good knuckle clearance, and at the same time scrape food and put it into a pan and whatever. So it's just an addition to my portfolio, and I think...
more choices for the customer.
Exactly.
Awesome. So yeah, thanks to have Modern Cooking take this video for us and giving us the opportunity to do awesome collaborations like that. Basically, we can do whatever we want, and as long as it turns out to be, interesting, it will go up on the Modern Cooking webpage. Perfect. That's a really good situation. Awesome. Thanks, Ben.
Thanks for having me.
Speak again soon.
So I hope you enjoyed that. If you would like to read a little about the knife or purchase it, it's available now on Modern Cooking.